The World Economic Forum is turning into Game of Thrones. The man who put together the most exclusive room in global politics just found a spying device hidden inside his own home office. That's right. None other than Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, filed a criminal complaint with the Geneva prosecutors against, well, persons unknown. Yep. The irony here is nothing short of perfect. The architect of the world's most powerful influence network, the one thing that helped normalize mass surveillance, is now concerned that he's the one being watched. But the timing, it would seem, is no accident. This bug surfaced right in the middle of a bitter, behind-closed-doors war for control of Davos itself. A war that has already claimed the forum's founder and its chief executive in under a year and left the most exclusive institution in global policy effectively leaderless. So today we break down how the WEF lost both its heads in the space of 10 months, who's walking into that empty room to seize control, and why a boardroom getting smaller and more closed by design should worry anyone whose life is shaped inside it. Spoiler, that's everyone, including you and I. My name is Nick, and this is the Coin Bureau. Now, to understand just how deep the crisis runs, we have to rewind to April 2025, because that's when the whole thing started to unravel. An anonymous whistleblower letter landed on the desks of the WEF's board of trustees, and the allegations inside it were spicy, to say the least. Roughly $1.1 million in questionable expenses billed by Schwab and his wife Hilda to the forum. We're talking 14 hotel massages, first-class flights for a wife who held no official WEF role, and traveled to Venice, the Seychelles, Monaco, and Miami with, shall we say, an unclear business purpose. The letter also alleged a toxic workplace and claimed Schwab pressured staff to alter the forum's flagship competitiveness report for political ends. Now, Schwab has denied all of it, calling the allegations, quote, stupid and constructed. But on the 20th of April 2025, the board accepted his resignation with immediate effect. The founder was out. And the forum did what these types of institutions tend to do when the walls start shaking. It commissioned an investigation run by the Swiss law firm Homburger. And by August 2025, the board publicly announced it had found, quote, no evidence of material wrongdoing. Case closed. Or so they said, because the story certainly doesn't end there. The Wall Street Journal reported that the lawyers running that probe presented findings on discrimination, data integrity breaches, and misuse of funds that were, quote, at odds with the board's clean public statement. In other words, what they said in public and what they found in private may not have been the same thing. And guys, get this. The interim chairman who pushed for that investigation resigned right after the final report dropped, citing a toxic environment. So, if the man cleaning up the mess decides to walk out rather than sign off on the verdict, something isn't adding up. Now, that alone would be a crisis, but the WEF wasn't done losing leaders. Fast forward to February 2026. CEO Borja Brenda, after more than 8 years running the place, resigns on the 26th. The reason? Department of Justice files released that month revealed Brenda had 3 business dinners with Jeffrey Epstein between 2018 and 2019, plus emails and text messages. He said he was stepping down so the forum could continue its work, quote, without distractions. As you might no doubt imagine, he conveniently failed to mention Epstein in his official resignation. So, let's just tally this up. In the space of 10 months, the World Economic Forum lost its founder and its chief executive. No permanent chair, no permanent CEO. The most exclusive room in global policy suddenly had nobody sitting at the head of the table. So guys, the question then becomes, who walks into a room like that when it's empty? And well, the answer should set alarm bells in your head. Because in the vacuum left behind, 2 men were named interim co-chairs. Andre Hoffman, the vice chairman of pharma giant Roche, and Larry Fink, the chief executive of BlackRock, the largest asset manager the world has ever seen. Now, you've probably heard that stated before, but let's put BlackRock's scale into a bit of perspective, because the numbers here are just insane. BlackRock's assets under management crossed $14 trillion by the end of 2025. That's the first firm in history to hit that threshold. Now, for comparison, its closest rival, Vanguard, sits at around $12 trillion, and Fidelity sits at around $7.1 trillion based on its year-end 2025 reported managed assets. There's no way to escape it. This is the institutional infrastructure of global finance. Now, BlackRock's market cap, which is of course the value of the company itself, sits somewhere between $160 and $180 billion. But the money it controls and steers is $14 trillion. The gap between what BlackRock owns and what BlackRock influences is the focus over here. The world's largest pool of capital is co-steering the most influential private forum on Earth. And that resulted in Mr. Fink earning a new title from the media, the mayor of Davos. Except, as one analyst framing put it, the new mayor of Davos is simply a massive balance sheet. This is pure consolidation. It's about deciding who gets a seat at the table where global policy gets shaped. And that brings us to the part where the table itself starts to shrink. For most of its life, the WEF's board of trustees was a broad, sprawling thing, historically around 28 members. Governments, scientists, civil society, business, a messy, multi-shareholder mix, at least on paper. But reporting from just this month suggests a faction of trustees is now moving to shrink that board into a much tighter circle, fewer trustees and concentrated authority, a smaller governing board that's being increasingly dominated by business representatives. Now, there's no hard confirmation on the final headcount, but the direction is well reported and the logic behind it makes perfect sense. A smaller board means less friction, fewer voices to slow a decision down, and, crucially, fewer witnesses to how those decisions get made. The multi-stakeholder model gets retired, and in its place, you get a boardroom for the global economy that is becoming a lot smaller, but a lot more powerful. And for the everyday person, the thing to remember is this: the fewer people in that room, the further away you are from it. And that, guys, is exactly why it's so important on keeping up with this kind of stuff. So, if you want more coverage like this, breaking down who really pulls the levers behind the madness you're seeing in the headlines, then you should subscribe to the Finance Bureau channel. And that's where we cover global finance, macro trends, and the power struggle shaping your life and your livelihood. So, if you want to be prepared for the crazy world we're living in, then check out the Finance Bureau right now by hitting this QR code on the left of your screen. Right, now back to Schwab. Because if you think a man forced out over a $1.1 million expenses scandal would go quietly, well, think again. Klaus Schwab is not retiring to go and live out his golden years in the Swiss countryside. No, he's fighting. According to the Wall Street Journal, Schwab has been sending letters to the WEF board members packed with legal threats, accusing the organization of, quote, deploying money and using advisors to diminish his legacy. And along with those threats comes a demand list. So, let's take a closer look at this list, because it pretty much speaks for itself. 1. An advisory role that gives him sway over who his successor actually is. 2. His personal security detail reinstated. 3. Continued access to WEF premises and communications. 4. Sign off on so-called farewell trips for him and his wife to the forum's overseas offices. And 5. Half his personal legal costs covered. That's quite the list of demands, and it hardly reads like a wish list of a man packing up his desk. That sounds like a man negotiating to keep his place. And it gets better, because there's already money on the table. Schwab reportedly received an exit package worth around $7 million. This is basically a pension-style payment on top of his standard Swiss entitlements, structured as 2 cash installments. The first was paid in December 2025, and the second is due in December 2026. But the thing to really focus on is this. Threatening lawsuits and demanding sign-off on a goodbye tour aren't really the actions of a man who's actually leaving. And Schwab has one more card he's trying to play. A name that he once installed as the heir to the original throne. And it's a big one. Schwab has been pushing for Christine Lagarde to succeed him, the sitting president of the European Central Bank. And that would mean we'd have a serving central banker, one of the most powerful monetary officials on the planet, positioned to run Davos. The line between central banking and the world's most powerful private forum effectively erased. Now, just a quick reminder that this is not a done deal. Lagarde has signaled she intends to finish her ECB term, which runs through October 2027. So this is a bit like the crown just being dangled in front of her face, at least for now. And there's yet another twist to the story, because the people currently running things while trying to shrink the board, Fink and Hoffman, are apparently resistant to Lagarde. They want a, quote, more institutional model, which is just corporate speak for no single dominant figurehead. Schwab is now fighting to install his preferred heir against the faction that pushed him out, which means even if Lagarde wanted the job, she'd be walking straight into the middle of a factional war as opposed to a clean handover. And that, my friends, appears to be the real state of Davos right now. A leaderless institution with a finance titan consolidating control, while a powerful central banker has been thrown into the mix just for good measure. Now, you might be thinking, well, Nick, this is amazing. Let them squabble. None of this really impacts me at the end of the day. And indeed, most of us will never ever set foot in a room or receive an invitation to Davos. But that's precisely the point. Because the decisions shaped inside it don't stay inside it. BlackRock's $14 trillion in assets gives it the power to influence the policy governing where that money flows. Larry Fink has argued that funding for the AI data center build-out should come from ordinary Americans' savings and pensions, and that is about as creepy and crony capitalist as it sounds. The man co-steering Davos wants your retirement money redirected into the infrastructure his firm profits from building. BlackRock is likely a top shareholder in your index funds, and its decisions ripple straight through your workplace pension. Meanwhile, the monetary policy set by officials like Lagarde dictates the real value of every pound and dollar you've put aside. The asymmetry here is just mind-boggling. The people in that shrinking room can read the board. They can position, hedge, and profit from decisions before you even know they were made. You get to find out afterwards on your bank statement or your portfolio. And the smaller and more closed that room becomes by design, the wider the divide gets. This room is shrinking deliberately to tighten its grip on global policy. So, who ends up profiting in this situation? Well, the finance titans, of course, sitting pretty in boardrooms with fewer chairs and fewer questions. The central bankers being offered the crown. And then we have the insiders who were always going to be in the room, whoever won the fight. And who pays here? Well, it's the ordinary everyday saver whose pension is being volunteered to fund whatever it is the elites decide should get your money. The ordinary household on the wrong side of policy written by people they never elected and will never meet. The story of the bug in Klaus Schwab's office marks the start of a new era, and most of us will be left permanently outside the door. But what do you think? Does it actually matter who wins the fight in Davos? Schwab's old guard or Fink's inner circle, if you're stuck outside the room either way? Or is a smaller, more concentrated Davos a greater threat? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want more topics like this, then you should check out this Finance Bureau video on how China is set to collapse the global economy. But that's all from me today, though. As always, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you over on the Finance Bureau. This is Nick, signing off.